time once again to go racing.
The pressure is really on now. And it's pole position.
And it's pedal to the metal. Go, go, go!
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the PSGL YouTube channel, and we are here today for the French Grand Prix in this F2 division. And my name is Dan. Today, I am by myself, it seems. Normally, I'm joined by Kodiak, but I'm not too sure where he's got to. Hopefully, if he is able to, he can join us mid-session, and we can all get... We can commentate alongside him, because that would be lovely. What a commentator he is. But today we head to the circuit Paul Ricard here in France, and it is quite the circuit. You know what? I actually do enjoy the circuit to drive on. I think it's got a brilliant flow to it. It's got really nice corners for me, but it's not the best for racing. But if anything, if last week was anything to go by, then it will be a cracking race. And what a race we did see at the Sakir International Circuit, won by Samuel Bean. And he took it not in the most convincing fashion, because he did have drivers like Piotr Stahalek and Christian Sendel hassling him throughout the entirety of it, and he didn't even win on circuit. We had Shizou get owned, winning on circuit with the alternate strategy. He managed to pull it off, but of course penalties brought him further back down the order. Let's have a look at our standings coming into this race, and well, it is pretty much the same as what it was last time, as what the results were. So Samuel Bean leading the championship, Piotr Stahalek in second, third for Christian Sendel, then Shizou gets owned in fourth, fifth for Jeffrey Ritchie. Christian Hausman, one of the reserves, he took up sixth position. Seventh for Shizou Neon, eighth for Chanakinchi, HX4K in ninth, and the final point scorer was Louis Welch. And we'll have a quick little run through of the constructor standings. Here we see Haas on top. Of course, a brilliant performance from both drivers, and of course Alfa Romeo didn't get any of the points that Samuel Bean got from winning, and that is because he was a reserve at that point, but we'll get onto that in just one moment. AlphaTauri are in second with Stahalek's points, then a big drop back to third position. Red Bull sitting on 4 points, 3 points for Aston Martin, scored by Chanakinchi. Then Mercedes, scored by HX4K, are on 2 in fifth, and then Alpine, the last of the teams to score points. Williams, Alfa Romeo, McLaren and Ferrari are the final teams that haven't even scored yet in this championship, as I might need to ask Neon for my invite, because I've not received it, and it is important.
You haven't reacted to them, so that's what he was saying.
Ah, hello there.
Apologies for running slightly late. Let me bung you an invite, good sir. There you go. You should have one.
Thank you. Hopefully everyone can hear you just fine. I do believe that you are audible. I might need to turn you down ever so slightly, but everyone, we have now been joined by the aforementioned King Kodiak, Chris Buxton. How are you doing tonight, man?
Ready and raring to go. I had a very busy weekend, followed by a disastrous Monday getting home from aforementioned weekend. I was actually doing circuit commentary over in Norfolk's finest. I was actually at Snetterton over the weekend. Getting 200 miles from my home to there, my car broke down. So it took me 12 hours to get back home again on Monday, which was not fun. But I am here ready to blow the cobwebs off at the very challenging Paul Ricard.
Absolutely, and let's just have a quick little check of the circuit in Les Castellets. It is a 5.42 kilometre long circuit with 3 DRS zones for the drivers to utilise. I tell a lie, it's actually 2 for overtakes, and then 15 corners are here for the drivers to navigate. And this circuit does pose a challenge because I've not driven it on this game yet, but there are some very tricky corners. Most notably for me, to get it absolutely perfect was always turn 12. I'd always lose the rear coming into that, so I reckon that the drivers, they might struggle tonight. Oh, it was incredible. I do want to watch out for one driver in particular, Samuel Bean. We'll just have a quick look at the lineup once again, but we do need to make one change to this graphic here. You see the Williams team is lined up by Ruben Vallejo and TF10 Boehner. Well, Ruben Vallejo, I'm pleased to announce for him, he has been moved up to F1 reserve, and I was questioning why he was on the F2 grid in the first place, because he's certainly... He is definitely F1 level, so it is good to see that he has been brought up to the top flight, and you might be seeing him tomorrow. But his replacement is last week's race winner, Samuel Bean, and this driver, he kind of came out of nowhere. I would say no one really expected him to be at the very top. You know, you'd expect guys like Stahalek and Antoine Tezaluski, who didn't finish last race, but Samuel Bean kind of came out of nowhere for me.
He certainly stamped his authority on the race, didn't he? He's started as he means to go on. He's in the Williams squad then, alongside Christian. So it's going to be good to see how that particular squad deals with the twists and turns of Les Castellets. But I mean, so early in the season, you can't really predict who's going to go where. You know, one race, it doesn't always tell the full story. It gives us an indication on the pecking order, but way too early to decide who the outright winners are going to be, of course. Shazoo still have a decent showing. We're still waiting for the last few drivers to join in. We've got, I think we have 19 of them in. We're missing one. Looks like we have Mr. Vyers joining us this time around. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does. But, yeah, not a lot else to add to that, really. Just let's get in and get on with it.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can get underway very soon. But I would like to just mention one thing that I've just noticed. Will_LG25. Thank you very much for your £8.99 donation. And, well, he says, Big C is hot. Cheers. Thank you very much for your donation there. I'd like to see in the live chat everyone giving love to Will there, because it is a very generous donation, a yellow super chat. So thank you for your contribution. And I'd also like to mention he just scored his first points in F1, and I'm just seeing that you are apparently very quiet. I'll turn you up here. I'll turn you up a little bit. Hopefully you can be okay. You can be heard well. I'm just gonna run through the list of drivers we have tonight and point out any reserves we might have joining us. We've got Christian Sendell in the Williams, so he'll be replacing Boehner tonight. Who else am I looking at here? I do believe it's just Flores Viz is the other one, and Christian Hausman, actually. He'll be replacing HX4K at the moment. And then Flores Viz will be taking up Yari's seats. So I'm wondering when we will see the Alfa Romeo driver of Jari Fitz, because I've definitely commentated him over him before, and he has been has got experience in PSGL. He raced a couple of times in the last series, and I wonder if he is going to be joining us today. Not too much else really to go over at the moment, but we are just waiting for one more driver. I do believe that it is an Aston Martin, so Chanakinchi we are waiting for him. We can actually just have a little chat about him. Chanakinchi is maybe one of the stars of tomorrow, racing a part of the VSR team. Of course, we had the VSR X PSGL social race a couple of weeks ago. He did take part in that one there. And now he's a part of an all-Turkish lineup of the Aston Martin team. And I certainly think his last week's performance wasn't really representative of what we know of him. He's certainly one of the more competitive drivers on the grid. And I don't think we're going to be seeing him, because I think we are all finally readying up.
A shame, as he did what he could. He's certainly the name I struggled with the most, so at least I won't be tripping over his name this time around. But it's one of these things, isn't it? That's one circuit doesn't tell all the story. France is it's a track really like no other in the balance you've got between those long straights and very, very technical twisty bits. Expect people to be straight lining the corners as well at the end of their qualifying, but the countdown now begins. We head trackside for qualifying for the F2 lobby.
Absolutely, we will just be loading up into the session. Anticipation builds as we're finally going to get underway with round number 2 of season 29 in PSGL. An 18-minute qualifying session will lead us off today, where drivers go out on their own individual laps to set the fastest time possible. I'm not too sure what times we're going to really be expecting, but I imagine it'll almost seem like a robot is doing them, knowing this grid and how competitive it is. Some of these times, it boggles my mind how they can actually manage them and do them on a consistent basis. But that'll lead us in to a 28-lap Grand Prix with the strategy you can see on your screen right now: soft to hard or hard to medium. That alternate strategy I know is very strong around this circuit.
And try and do something different. So yeah, they're always worth a look, but of course it does very much depend on the weather. Doesn't look too brilliant at the moment, but still plenty of time for that to change. Of course, we don't know what race conditions we're going to see. Let's see who breaks covers first. No one's wanting to be the first one out. Come on, people. Don't be shy. The water's good.
It's looking like, well, Dylan Warren's changed his tyre. He's on the medium. And so is Tom Martinez. So they're just teasing us at the moment. They'll surely get out very soon. It's looking quite cloudy. A little bit of haze in the top right. And I do believe I can see, oh wow, it is Ulas Zildrim, the first one out on circuit. That is a very loud Aston Martin car, Mercedes powered. He'll be the first one to put us out on a lap here. And I believe last week he did, unfortunately, DNF. But he did manage to pick up the fastest lap, if I'm not mistaken.
There is pace in that Aston yet. So yeah, out he comes, first man on track. Just working his way through the first few turns. Now, I apologise in advance. I will try and get the corner names right, but I'm not brilliant with them, I'll be honest. I don't want to chicken out with the corner numbers, but I might have to.
I mean, I'm not too well versed in the corner numbers. I just kind of, I think the only thing I know around this track is the Mistral Straight, which is what Ulas Zildrim is on at the very moment. But yeah, he's in the number 2 car, which means he hasn't customized it. So I'd like to see drivers customize it in the future, so he can get a little bit of a sense of identity. But we'll see him begin his lap very soon. He's just entered the 3rd sector now, which I would say is probably the more difficult part of the track. As compared to Sector 2, which is pretty much just the straight, and then Sector 1 was just a few corners, especially around this part, turn 11 and turn 12. It's going to be very difficult with these drivers and how they manage the understeer around this part.
Yeah, completely. And on my screen, his engine's making some odd noises. Sweeping through the penultimate turn. Wants to open that up using all the track as he dare on the soft tyres. Assuming everyone is running the soft tyres at the moment. No one's chanced the mediums. Over the line then to begin the first flying lap of the evening. Open up the turn 4, turn 1, nicely done. Sweeps through turn 2 and runs over the rumble area, bouncing around, heading down towards the next series of corners. absolutely flies in there way quicker than you really thought would be possible. Kills a bollard whilst he's at it. Why not? Don't need it anymore. Of course, that's the purple sector 1 because it's the first time out there. Onto the straight, getting down towards the chicane. That's one of the Ferraris getting out of the way. Very nicely done. Into the chicane, then down to fourth, then down to third for just a brief moment to catch the apex in the middle. Keeps the car nice and steady, of course, not under immediate pressure to get out of anybody's way or to challenge anyone. Sweeps through the right-hander absolutely flat out. Now into the very challenging twisty section. It's so easy to go too hot into that first right-hander, but keeps the car nice and steady. Over to the right to start the left-hand section. Barely really go down to third in these cars. It's absolutely nailed to the floor with downforce. Sweeps through the penultimate turn, all the way over to the left. And let's see what the first time on the board is for Ulas Asildrim. And it is the start line's quite a way, the finish line rather, is quite a way down the road. Is a 1:27.491. Nice and respectable time. We'll see how that holds up.
Absolutely, we've got Christian Hausmann just about to cross the line now. Finishing in the points last race, filling in for HX4K, and he immediately goes ahead of Ulas Azildran by quite a comfortable margin, I would say, as Shazoo Risky. He was actually joint on pole last week with Samuel Bean. They did the exact same time, but Samuel Bean said it first, so it counted his before Risky's. He's certainly one to look out for. Trying to see if we can find someone in the final sector. We got Oscar Villacampa making his debut in the F2 division. Didn't manage to make it last week, but he is here in full force in the Scarlet Red Prancing Horse Ferrari. We'll see him coming through the final sector now, taking it through turn number 15, the long-winded right-hander, almost agonising on the exit with some oversteer, but he has managed to take that very nicely to cross the line. It goes fifth fastest, just ahead of a podium sitter from last week, Christian Sendel, by only a slim margin, and then just ahead of Ulas Azildran. But what a lap from Piotr Stahelek, the first driver to break in to the 1:26s.
Risky did that last week, didn't he? He set an absolutely stonking time very early on. Then took a while for anybody to get anywhere near it. And of course, like you say, we had 2 to the thousandths of a second pole laps. But what a time. Burst into the 26s is the AlphaTauri of Saulek. Very nice effort there. Vyers and Dormeyer have just started their outlaps as well. What about Tom Martinez? Where are you? Heading down the back straight. Coming to the end of end of the first part of that particular straight. In the Alpine, a few people going back into the pits. Risky, Christian Hausmann. After being the first man on track, Ulas Azildrim already down into 9th place. 1/1000th of a second separates Samuel Bean and Norberto at the moment, VRT Norberto. So you know full well there's more time to be had. 4 drivers in the 1:27.4s yet again. We're seeing very, very close outlaps, and did that culminate into a brilliant qualifying session towards the end. Sadly, that lap is invalidated for Martinez. He's overcooked that in the third section, and that is really, really easy to do at this circuit. It's you're trying to maximize every inch or every pixel of the track you can, and opening up those corners is so important. Sadly, he's pushed that tiny bit too far. He'll need to go again.
Absolutely, I'm not too sure if he is going to push. I think he'll come into the pit lane and then strap on a new set of soft tyres. They do die out pretty quickly around this circuit. We'll see if we can catch Floris Veers on his lap, filling in for Shazoo Yari Fitz in that Alfa Romeo car, a race-winning car from last week in Bahrain. We'll see what his sector split time is in the second sector. Is a 48.5, respectable from the former F1 esports driver, now racing a part of VSR through turn number 10 and indeed turn 11 here, as I believe Andreas Dormeyer just finished on his lap. He's gone into 4th position, splitting the 2 McLarens of Smasher, who also makes his debut tonight, and Dylan Warren. Less than ideal performance in Bahrain. No points for the young British driver. No points either for Floris Veers, but maybe he is going to want to change that one as he comes opening up the DRS. About to cross the line here. What's it going to be for Floris Veers? And a respectable 9th position, just a few thousandths quicker than Samuel Bean. About That is 7 thousandths of a second with a 127.44 and we do have a couple more drivers coming out on their outlaps, I believe, as we've got a lot of activity down at the pit lane.
Indeed, we've got 5 drivers now in the 27.4s. That's 5 drivers in a space of time quicker than you can blink. That's how close that actually is. Yeah, CRG Smasher, good effort there. 127, 132. No one breaking into the 26s other than Starlek. Risky has come back out along with French and Dylan Warren. Dylan Warren didn't hang around in the pit lane, did he? He's straight back on the case. Another set of soft tyres for the second McLaren car. Christian Hausman is on track as well. Jeffrey Ritchie, currently in 15th place with a 28 flat, is on track as well. I don't think anybody else is on a hot lap right now, so in a bit of a cool down phase as people either make their way back to the pits or get their outlaps done. I'm going to keep an eye on the Alfa Romeo Risky, because again, he showed absolutely incredible qualifying pace last time out. Didn't quite go his way race war, certainly not at the start at least, so we'll see if he's able to improve on that. That distinctive pink livery on the helmet certainly identifies his car as he comes into the third sector. I'll keep an eye on him and see how he does.
Absolutely, of course, he started on the front row of the grid last week and well, it all sort of unravelled from there. Really did not go his way. I believe he fell to 5th by the end of the first lap, and then he had connection issues, and that saw his day done. He wasn't able to recover from that point, but hopefully he's going to be looking for redemption today as he's going to slide out of turn number 15 and open up the DRS, pulling it off to the right-hand side of the circuit, and we'll go on board with the Alfa Romeo car on his lap, running right to the right-hand side of the track, swinging it in through turn number 1 and turn 2, through 3 now on this short straightaway up towards turn number 4, breaking it down at about 50 meters through this fast chicane. Third gear at about 150 kilometers per hour. Now coming up towards the Mistral straight through turn number 6 and turn 7, running it wide through turn 6 and then switching it back to the left in towards turn 7, opening up the DRS. And listen to this Ferrari powered Alfa Romeo roar, reaching speeds in excess of up to 325 kilometers per hour, breaking it down into the chicane that breaks up this Mistral straight, and he's taking that very nicely here. About to come up to the second sector split. We'll see what his improvement is, and it's not an improvement. He's slightly down, but he does have the final sector here. It doesn't seem like he's pushing too hard anymore. I'm not too sure at this point, as it's not got an indicator as to whether he's actually using up his ERS, but I do believe he is still pushing on this lap as through turn number 12, running it wide on entry, then cutting back over to the left hand side to take the corner. Now in towards turn number 14, and he is going to complete this lap. We'll see what he can do, as Jeffrey Ritchie just in front of him is also finishing up on his run. We'll keep an eye on his time as he goes up into 5th position, but here comes Risky towards the line. Can he improve? He does improve, but not enough to beat Piotr Stachelek, who is also on a push lap, but a great and valiant effort from Risky there.
Purple sector 3 as well for Risky, so he's got more time to find. He improved by just shy of a 10th of a second, so not enough, like you say, to overhaul Stachelek, who himself on a flying lap just started the third sector. He's gone purple sector 2, so he's quicker again in the AlphaTauri, and he's just coming into the twisted section himself. Got a bit of traffic ahead of him, but not close enough that should affect his push lap unless they're very, very slow, one of which is fellow AlphaTauri Ruben Pedreno. Or bit of a twitch there. Oh, we've just lost Jeffrey Ritchie. He's left the session. Hopefully he can reappear. He's currently down in 8th, one of the 27-2 drivers. There's now about 5 of them as well. Does Pietro Stachelek improve? Heading to the line. Yes, he does. He's found 1.5 tenths to go 1:26.779.
He's got more time in that lap. I think he lost time in that third sector, so we really do have to watch out for him. And we also got to watch out for CRG Smasher, maybe looking to place that McLaren on the front row of the grid, because he's improved through the first 2 sectors. What about in sector 3? He does find time. He's found just over 2.5 tenths of a second, but it's not enough to dethrone Piotr Stachelek at this point. You can see the gap is just 8 hundredths of a second, so not much time in it. Actually, the the top 17, separated by only 7/10 of a second. Shizuni on the outlier there. He is 1.3 seconds adrift. I tell a lie, he's just crossed the line, and he puts that Red Bull car in 15th position. We'll see if we can find anyone else through the final sector. Don't believe we've got anyone else on a lap at the moment, which means surely we'll be gearing up for the final runs of qualifying. We've got 5 minutes left in this section, in this part of qualifying, and then we'll see the true pace of these drivers.
Yeah, the Banzai phase, as they call it. We did have a couple of drivers, I think, that might have been on push laps, but have invalidated them. That's Ruben Pedreno and Flores Valles. No such joy for them. As Tom Martinez, the only man yet to get a time on the board, is back out there. I mean, that's unreal pace. Less than 8 cents separates the entire field, bar Tom Martinez. So once again, our field are in F2, showing their true worth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is it 6 drivers now in the 27.2s? We did have the contingent in the 27.4, so people still finding time out there. And yeah, CRG Smasher with that 26.864, getting the McLaren into second place, shoving Risky down onto row 2. Again, we still have a thousandth of a second between a couple of drivers. That's Norberto and Christian Sindel. Absolutely brilliant stuff. I'm going to keep an eye on the Alpine of Tom Martinez, and Risky's come out again. No one's trying any other tyres. I haven't seen anybody else fit anything other than soft tyres. So I'm assuming that either they're wondering for wet weather, or the soft tyres just are not an optimal race tyre. They probably just want to get them out of the way, so that burning them up is not really too much of a concern to our drivers. Tom Martinez around the final corner, and he's going to start his next time lap.
Absolutely, the only driver yet to put in a lap time at this moment, the French outfit of Alpine racing at the French Grand Prix. It would be a Cinderella story if the number 97 car can put it on pole here, as Tom Martinez comes through the first sector now in towards turns 4 and turn number 5 very shortly here. To bring it down very slow. This is probably the slowest part of the track, bar the turn 15 hairpin, but then it immediately rises up in speed to bring it on to the Mistral straight out of turn number 7, opening up the DRS, and it's looked pretty nice and tidy for Tom Martinez. So far on this run, he's got no traffic in front of him. Furthest car up on track at the moment is a McLaren, which is either CRG Smasher or Dylan Warren. I believe it's actually Smasher in front of him, but Tom Martinez, this is likely going to be his final run. 48.3 through the second sector split. That is around about, I'd say, the top 10 area, maybe around Norberto French, who, if you're wondering who that is, that's Antoine Desilewski in his home Grand Prix, and he changed his name just so that you know it especially. But Tom Martinez through the third sector now. We'll see what he can do as we'll ride on board. I love the little whistle of the Alpine cars. Probably the Renault Power is my favorite one, but through turn number 15 now, and running it towards the line. We'll see what Tom Martinez can do on his final and only push lap, and he goes into 11th position. That is almost sort of the poor man's pole position, but it is very good for the alternate strategy when it does come to the race, because especially around this track, it is very, very strong. So I think Tom Martinez, if it's a dry race, they could be very happy with that one.
Risky has invalidated his lap. He's just had a Mercedes get out of his way. Was that Antoine? No, it was the other one. It was Houseman, who was jumping out of his way, I think. No, completely wrong on that one. So yeah, Risky has had his push lap invalidated. So whether he's getting out of someone's way or tripped over someone, not entirely certain. By the time I caught up with him, the lap was already gone. Several push laps going on. Pedreno, his is gone. Ozildrum is on a push lap, just coming through that back straight chicane. Just coming down towards the third sector. We'll keep an eye on him. Dylan Warren, his lap's gone. Houseman is still on his lap. And Villacampa is now at the tail end of the field with a 27.5 in this Ferrari, but his lap is already gone. So he's invalidated lap through turns 1 and 2. So he will not be improving. He won't have time to come in and do anything about it. Starlek, his lap's gone as well, unless my graphic is glitching. It's a few people pushing a little bit too hard, or just out there for practice, of course. That may well not be reading into it properly. But still some laps to go, though. Smasher is just gone through that back chicane. There's 20 seconds until the checker flag falls. And that's purple sector 2 for the McLaren. So he's found some more time out there. What can he do? So he is a mighty... what's the gap between him? He's 85 thousandths of a second off the top spot at the moment. Still in second place in the McLaren.
The time.
Turn over to the right. What can he do? So the checker flag is out. So Jeffrey Ritchie, I'm not sure if he's returned to the session yet. Tom Martinez is in the pit. What can Smasher do through the final turn? Pushing towards the line. Samuel Bean's gone up to fourth with a 27.0. Can the McLaren do it? Yes, he can! A 26.721 on the board. And Stowlek has already invalidated his lap. He is 57 thousandths to the good. What a run from CRG Smasher.
Brilliant stuff from the British driver. And Piotr Stahelek not able to begin another lap. I think most drivers are finishing up on their runs or already finished, but we do have Risky. He's a 10th down through sector 2, so it might not be strong from him, might not be an improvement, and indeed it is not. But Get Owned is about to cross the line. He just about jumps Samuel Bean. What about Christian Hausmann? Doesn't appear like he is pushing on his final lap. Andreas Stormeyer seems to be going on a lap at the moment. He's got his Red Bull teammate of Shazoo Neon in front of him, but through slinging it into turn 15, he's missed his apex there, I would say, and I think he backs out at the very bitter end of that lap. What about Ruben Pedreño? Seems like he is pushing at this lap. He is gaining ERS, but I do think the Spaniard is going to complete this lap. His AlphaTauri teammate is on the front row. Where can he nestle that car? And he goes into 5th position. 2.5 tenths improvement brings him up from pretty much the back of the field all the way into the top 5, just proving how close the gaps are between all the drivers. But that is the end of qualifying. We're just waiting for Christian Hausmann and Ulas Zildrum. We're waiting for their mechanics to bring them into the garage. But the CRG front row lockout is in full force. CLG Smasher on pole, Smasher Sam as people do like to call him, and then Piotr Stahelek in second position, a class of their own, because they're about 2 tenths clear, both ahead of them, of Risky. And there it is. We'll get a full classification of the comprehensive list of drivers and where they'll be starting on the grid. But we did not see a single medium tyre. That leads me to believe we could see some rain in this race. Here is your grid order for the race coming up very soon. Smasher on pole, Stahelek starting alongside him on the front row. Risky in 3rd, 4th for Getone shows Shazoo lock out the 2nd row. Then Ruben Pedreño and Samuel Bean on the 3rd row of the grid. It's on all Spanish 3rd row actually. Dylan Warren in 7th, 8th for Hausmann. Then Sendel in 9th, and Andreas Stormeyer rounds out the top 10. Then we got Antoine Desaluski starting in 11th. Alongside him is VRT Norberto. Flores Viers starting in 13th, 14th for Ritchie. Then we got Tom Martinez, Ulas Zildrum, Shazoo Neon, and then the last 2 drivers, both part of the TF10 esports team, Louis Welch and Oscar Villacampa. But that'll bring us on to the race very soon. And what can we see for this one?
Oh yes, we will see. The eyes skyward. What is the starting weather going to be? Yeah, I wonder whether we're going to have some wet weather, because no one was doing anything other than soft runs. There you go. It is chucking it down is the answer to that. Now, have they gone inches or have they gone full wet? How long is the rain going to last? We have... the weather is when they know about it, but we get no such luck at the moment. So we're waiting for the drivers to load in. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. 2nd race of the season, then we get a wet one. Beautiful.
Absolutely. So it's going to be it looks like intermediate conditions. I'm looking inside the Mercedes garage and the Red Bull garage, and it appears that we do have intermediate tyres out, but that doesn't necessarily mean they'll be using them for the entire race, because if this rain continues throughout the entirety of the Grand Prix, well, it might just become persistent enough to that we see the full full wet tyres, the blue wall tyres. We don't see them often in Formula One. Rare is the occasion of a full wet Grand Prix where it's just completely sheened in about 3 millimeters thick of water, if I'm not mistaken. That is how much the minimum they can displace. As we'll just have a little rundown of the circuit once again before we get on this formation lap. 5.842 kilometers long with 2 DRS zones, but we won't be seeing them at all in the wet weather. And then 15 grueling corners, especially in the rain, will challenge the drivers. That'll be it for the circuit Paul Ricard, and we'll see what tyres they are operating on at the moment. Intermediates, and I think that was to be expected.
Indeed, and the prediction for strategy was sticking with inters, so if that's anything to read into, then we are in for wet and slippery conditions all race long. That makes the commentary box seat even more comfortable. I don't envy these drivers because this is an absolute real pig of a circuit to do with the wet. Some drivers love it. Some drivers really come to life when the circuit is a little bit slippery. As I'm watching the back of the field at the moment on board with Philip Camper, as Ulysses Ildrim has just lagged and he's let the Ferrari slam into the back of him. But no such joy. We did have that last time out. A couple of drivers just came together at the wrong moment and had to be disqualified from the parade lap. That just dumps them straight onto the grid. And that really does compromise the start. Your tyre temperatures are all wrong. Your brake temperatures are wrong. So it does make your crucial start that much more difficult to pull off. It looks like everybody's behaving themselves at the moment. Lots and lots of understeer going on in some cars. So, yeah, these guys are going to have to be really careful. Generally, practice laps are done in the dry because you want to be getting those apexes right, getting the lines right. So who has put any practice in the wet weather? Whilst the likes of Smasher and Starolek are, of course, the class of the field in the dry, they may well really struggle in these wet conditions. And, of course, it does mean that the slippery conditions makes an accident all the more likely. So the pit lane could well become very busy.
Yeah, I'm hoping that all the drivers can get through at least the first lap with their noses clean, and especially around the other parts of the car, the barge boards and the rear wing and the diffuser as well. They can all take damage, but the wet weathers, they pose a different challenge for these drivers. We'll see who has got the all-round skills and the verse in the wet, or who is a dry merchant. As drivers, they'll be pulling into their grid slots. I'd imagine those tyres, if they've not got enough load on them, they'll be ice cold and they'll really struggle to get the grip beneath them along the start. As Oscar Villacampa, he is pulling into his grid slot, and we will get ready here for the French Grand Prix. As it all falls silent here, the revs begin to build, the lights begin to come on. 5 red lights above us, and we are underway for round number 2 of PSGL F2, and it looks like an even start all round, but you can see Stahalek being challenged by Risky in towards turn number 1. Stahalek having to defend to the inside line as Smasher leads in towards turn number 1. Seems like more drivers shuffling positions further back down the order as they're running 2 abreast throughout most of the field. You can see Dylan Warren trying to look up the inside of Samuel Bean. He's going to go deeper on the brakes than the Spaniard. The Spaniard's got the inside line for the next part of the circuit, running wide does the McLaren, but he dives up the inside, coming close to contact between the pair of them. There we go, Samuel Bean's off the circuit, and it seems like Dylan Warren just about made it through, but I think everyone has got through nice and tightly. And just like saying that, we got a spinner. I think it's Christian Sendell to Ulysses Ildrim.
Ulysses Ildrim did indeed spin round. It looked like he was lagging during the parade lap as well. Everyone else seems to have done okay to survive. It's really difficult to get the car going when the field is this condensed in these really slippery conditions. But CIG Smasher's got himself almost a seconds lead already up front. Absolutely brilliant stuff. Jeffrey Ritchie, what a start. 10 positions gained. He's up into 4th position now in the Haas. He's an absolute stormer. Dylan Warren was putting on some good moves early on to try and climb up the field. He's gained a position. Still lots of shuffling going on. And Alberto Christensen down side by side along with Andreas Dormeyer. They're in a great 3-way scrap coming towards the end of into the middle of the 3rd sector. And there's another yellow. That's another spinner. Is that Sendell? Oh, I've just mentioned his name. And he has indeed fallen to the... I've commentator cursed him. I only mentioned his name. Wow, the commentary curse is strong in me today.
As they complete the first lap, 2 spinners early on, but it seems like minimal damage to the cars as Jeffrey Ritchie appears to be ghosting through everyone. I wonder if that is him driving. I'm not too sure about the situation there, but I guess he could just take his own racing line. I'm not too sure what the situation is looking like there, but Smasher leading from Starlek, who's managed to pull him in ever so slightly, about 0.6 adrift. Now, normally this would be the lap before DRS gets enabled, but of course, there is no DRS in the wet weather conditions. We could see some moves without it, though, as my deltas do appear to be pretty glitched at the moment. It says Samuel Bean's about 500ths back from Dylan Warren, and, well, he looks good by 4 or 5 car lengths back, so not too sure what's going on at the moment. I think Jeffrey Ritchie leaving and joining's probably bugged the session.
If there's any consolation, I have exactly the same mess on my tower as well. According to my screen, Jeffrey Ritchie and Shizu Gedone are about 1 minute 40 behind each other, which is a good trick. But never mind, we will press on as best we can. COG Smasher continues to lead the way from Pietra Starlek, Risky in third. This is probably why Jeffrey Ritchie's had such a storming start. If he can't see anybody else and he's able to drive through him, I did think I saw him ghosting early on, and there we go on my screen. He's just taken the racing line, and Neon already has got himself a penalty for multiple warnings, whereas he's down in 15th place at the moment. He's just nudging against Louis Welch in the Alpine. Not a great race start. Now I'm starting to get some realistic time deltas on my screen. Hopefully you are as well, Dan. And yeah, Jeffrey Ritchie is he's inside the Haas at the moment. He can't decide which car he wants to drive, so he's going to try and drive both of them. Oh, and he's wandered on to the infield there at, I think it's turn 3 or 4. Curious case of what's going on with Jeffrey Ritchie's car. I'm assuming it's just a case he can't see anyone. But we press on.
Absolutely, as it seems like a little bit of a battle between the Mercedes and Ferrari of Norberto and Christian Hausmann coming onto the Mistral straight. Tom Martinez trying to stick his nose in here, and he's looking like he's trying to look for a move on Christian Hausmann, pulling back into the slipstream of the Mercedes car and all faking to the inside line. And then it seems like Hausmann wanted to defend that one there, but he does back out in the end so as to not come to blows. A long race here, and I think he wants to actually get a move on, but Hausmann pulling away, using up a bit of his battery to close up to Norberto and also close the gap. Bridge the gap from Tom Martinez. Seems to be working pretty well, and he runs very wide there. Martinez going to slip up the inside line and towards turn number 11. Hausmann going to be respectful of the room, but he uses the momentum that he gains from running so wide, and he manages to shut the door on Tom Martinez. Nice, clean racing between the pair of them, and it has seen no positions change. Florence Veers and Louis Welch also looking into this battle, so it can tasty for the lower end positions.
Absolutely, what a great scrap going on. That's from 11th right the way down to about 17th as the fastest lap of the race will of course change hands pretty consistently. I'm looking skyward and not seeing really any break in the cloud cover, so I reckon we've got this for at least the foreseeable, as Ola Zildrim has the fastest lap now, and a new name on the penalty board. It was Antoine, wasn't it? That's got on there, otherwise known as French, being very patriotic. There's wonderful side-by-side going on through turns 2, 3 and 4 for Tom Martinez. He's trying to hustle his way to the front of that particular conga line, which he's done for now. That's allowing VRT Norberto to sprint off a bit into the distance. Brilliant stuff. Everyone is, other than Sendell's spin that's put him quite a way off the back of the field, no, I haven't really seen any bits of discarded carbon fibre anywhere.
Yeah, I think all of the drivers have managed to keep their keep contact to a very minimum, and we've just seen that in full force actually, because Flores Veers has just managed to nip his way past Christian Hausmann, who's beginning to sink like a stone. through the grid, and I think it is fitting in the wet conditions as well. His next victim might be Louis Welch, who's right on the back of him, coming through turn number 11. He's sticking his nose in there, and a little bit of contact between the pair of them. I think it was a bit ambitious for Louis Welch to have a look down the inside at that point. He was nowhere near going up the inside, but it's managed, I think, a little bit with that little bit of a slide from Hausman. He's lost a bit of time to Flores Veers in front of him, so maybe that does favour Louis Welch behind him, as at the front of the order they're not fighting at the moment, but they're all just setting fastest lap after fastest lap, aside from Jeffrey Ritchie still following in behind. I believe he is still ghosted. He is still ghosted, at least on my screen, from Risky in behind him. As lap 5, the order's looking like this: Smasher, Stahalek and Risky. That's your top 3.
And Dormeyer now has his name on the penalty board, which, as we said earlier, this track is a very technical, twisty track. It's easy enough to get a penalty in the dry, so I would imagine that penalty board is going to be absolutely lit up like a Christmas tree before the checkered flag falls. Also, yeah, Jeffrey Ritchie is a ghost on my screen, so I think that's actually AI that's going on. I did see him leave the session right at the death of qualifying, and I haven't seen him reappear. So that, as far as I know, is not Jeffrey Ritchie in control of that car, which is why we've seen it go through several people. So it'll carry on its merry way. And Neon, well, that's another one. So that's 6 seconds worth of penalties he's earned for himself. Now down into 16th position. So far so good. There's Zildrum is up into 17th position. He's just gone past Villacampa, who's had a moment. Now has he lost a bit of his wing, or is that just the way the camera angle looks? Don't know, because the camera's miles away. But he's now been hustled by, yeah, he's in trouble. I think the Ferrari of Villacampa has hit something. Yeah, he's missing his front right end plate. Another commentator curse for me. I was talking about intact cars, and now we have a wounded one.
Yeah, that'll be him pulling into the pit lane, I think, a bit earlier than he would have liked, and he's just struggling to even get it around the corner. In the wet, it is very difficult with wing damage, and he'll pull into the box and get that front wing sorted. Might be his race over, but he can still hope for a safety car at this point. It seems like some of the closest gaps on circuit at the moment is for the lower points positions. Round about 6th all the way down to 10th seems to be where a train has formed between Dylan Warren, Samuel Bean, Rune Pedreño, and then Antoine Desaluski, Andreas Dormeyer rounding out this train. The last 2 drivers of Antoine Desaluski and Andreas Dormeyer have both unfortunately got time penalties to their names, so unless other drivers manage to pick up penalties, they'll be losing 3 seconds in comparison to them at the end of the Grand Prix. Not ideal, especially this early in the race. Lap 6 of 27 and already got a penalty to your name, as Louis Welch and Christian Hausman having a scrap here. Louis Welch gets a time penalty for running off the circuit now. I think Neon's also going to try and have a look in on this battle for 14th position at the moment. And no, in towards turn number 10. Doesn't seem like the scrap will continue any longer. Louis Welch going to have to contend with that 3-second time penalty. As I say that, Neon having a half look up the inside, and in towards turn 11 he manages to squeeze his way through. Bit of contact between himself and Christian Hausman, as a big slide from Hausman there. I don't think that might not have been as clean as Neil would have liked, but at least he's got the move done.
He's got the move done. He didn't send Christian Hausman off into space, and you know, those kind of slides and understeers are expected in the wet weather conditions. It was a decent move from Neon, but he's not afraid to get his elbows out, is he? My goodness me. Now Ulis Sildrim, after his very early spin, is now on the back of that particular pack of cars. It was slightly unfortunate for Louis Welch there. He just literally extended slightly too far to earn that penalty at the point that he was making the move on Hausman. But that's the way it goes. He's already disappeared down the road as Neon and Hausman continue their battle. So Louis Welch is trying what he can to undo that penalty disadvantage. But like I said earlier, I am fully expecting lots of other penalties to go on the board, so he may not have to as time goes on. Ulyssa Zildrim really still hustling. Christian Hausman coming out of Sector 1 now. And on that back straight, is he going to make a move here? Is he going to banzai it on the inside of the chicane? There he goes. Is he going to commit to it? He does. He gets it done before he's even... Oh no, beg your pardon. The Aston is still behind. at the point they come through the chicane. So good move, didn't quite come off this time around, but still lots of very, very close fighting going on. Vyers is very, very close as well to the back of Tom Martinez, who is looking at the back of Vietti Norberto's. It's, you've got the top 10 in their pack, and then you've got the back 10 in their own pack, oddly enough. It just seems to be the way that the race has gone, but it's not like Norberto's holding anybody up. It's just that hard to find any traction out there. But as far as Vyers staring at the back of the Alpine of Tom Martinez, I would imagine he's looking to make a move as quickly as he can.
Absolutely. Of course, Flores Vyers with 3 seconds of penalties, he's kind of got less to lose at this point. He can go for a move and it won't really affect him too much, so maybe he could just kamikaze it anyway. I'd hope he doesn't completely send it up the inside of Tom Martinez, but certainly he'd want to overtake to bridge a gap to him as Villacampa gets a time penalty. He's all the way back in 19th, 30 seconds adrift from Christian Sendel. So unless there's a safety car, it's unlikely he's going to make up any more positions in this race. There's a big slide through turn 6 and another one at the apex of the corner for Flores Vyers, and he's struggling at this point as I think he's not going to be close enough to close the gap to Tom Martinez on the straightaway, as the blinking red lights of the rain lights, so that you don't run into the back of the car in front of you, they are going very prominent at this point. Flores Vyers not close enough to making a move. Just looking, I'm having a look at the skies at the moment. Doesn't seem like there's too much signs of letting up. It's certainly looking bright in the sky, but it is interesting to see that the rain is still persisting. But I think maybe we might not be too far away from dry spell.
We will see. The track is big enough to have heavier rain at one end of it and lighter at the other. There's Sam Bean, who was very, very close to the back of Dylan Warren for a little while, certainly coming through the end of Sector 3 as he just understeers heading towards the penultimate turn. We'll see how he deals with the last one. Nice and steady for the Williams. A little hesitant to get the power down, because making sure he's got all traction, all the horses getting down to the tarmac. CRG Smasher and Stallo just maintaining around between 6 and 8 tenths between them. That gap hasn't changed dramatically so. Get owned in a net 4th, assuming that Jeffrey Ritchie isn't in control of that car. We saw earlier that House ghosting through people. And Houseman now on the board, so that's 2, 4, 6, 7 drivers with a penalty. Sam Bean's car was just beginning to snap, and he caught it brilliantly well, working to the end of Sector 1, keeping Dylan Warren company. Very nicely done. Tom Martinez is getting ever closer to the back of Norberto with Flores Vyers as well, so great three-way scrap is there as well. Yeah, I see what you mean, Dan. The sky does look quite light in places, but the cloud cover is not really broken up anywhere. So at the moment, it's only inters.
Yeah, normally when it is pretty much confirmed that you will get a dry spell is when you start to see little peaks of sunlight between the clouds, but it doesn't seem like there is any. There are certainly light parts where sun can be shining through, and just doesn't seem like it at this point in the race, but it is only lap 9. We're about a third of the way through, so we certainly got more action to come in this race, and we could have some action between Dylan Warren and Samuel Bean. Defending 6th position is the young British McLaren driver, and that does remind me of a certain Lewis Hamilton. Dylan Warren does have experience in the F1 tier racing last season, and I'd certainly say he is, when he becomes of age to make it into esports, and he's going to take that chance. I've just heard a slide further back, and it might be Tom Martinez. He's very wide there.
He went on. He tried to go on the inside of Norberto on that final turn, and the Ferrari turned in, and sadly they came together, and it was Martinez that came off the worst. He's dropped all the way down to 14th. That was a shame. He's obviously been getting closer and closer as Vyers has added another penalty to his score, now to 6 seconds for him. It was a shame. It was a decent effort from Tom Martinez, but sadly did not go the way of the Alpine.
Yeah, and he's paid the price for it. Now he's behind his teammate, and that makes Flores Vyers' job a little bit easier. Now he doesn't have to clear the Alpine car to catch up to Norberto, but he did get another time penalty in the process. We'll have a look at what penalties everyone has. The Villacampa sets the fastest lap on older tyres slightly. but I guess you do need a little bit of wear in the intermediates to really get them into their prime. But you see all the penalties on the left-hand side. Everyone with a black and white box, they've got a penalty. 3 seconds for Desaluski, Dormeyer, Louis Welch, Hausman and Villacampa, then 6 seconds for Vyers and Neon, as those guys, they'll have to contend with them at the end of the race. And unless they send their race directors, they can't get them removed. So hopefully they do remember that if they want to get that penalty removed, and then they could be happily on their way, as lap number 10 has it just about to end. We're about to go on to lap 11 as we got the first of the pitters, and it's going to be Antoine Desaluski and Andreas Dormeyer, and Smasher puts in the fastest lap.
We do indeed. Remember, Villacampa has already been in for a fresh nose. He changed his tyres at the same time, so his tyres are a bit fresher than the rest. I'm going to assume that no one is going to go for dries just yet. I'd be very, very surprised if they did, because I think the rain is still falling in some areas. And yep, still intermediates. No one is thinking about a dry stint just yet. So out comes Dormeyer and French back on circuit. They've decided to get out of the pack and see if fresh set of tyres can do them well, because certainly he is doing Villacampa well. He's briefly had that fastest lap. I think the fastest lap is back in the hands. Let's just double check. Where is fastest lap? Where is it? Yes, he is actually back in the hands of COG Smasher, so the fresh tyres aren't necessarily the be-all and end-all. That's Villacampa doing well. Just to remind people, he's still with us. He hasn't given up, in fairness. And of course, you know, more likely to get a safety car in the wet weather conditions. I do think that rain is easing up a bit. If we see that fastest lap keep changing hands, we know that the rain is easing up.
Yeah, that is certainly what it is looking like. We do have a battle going on. Sendell really Sendelling it, as he likes to put it, up the inside line of turn number 11 on Christian Hausman. I've just turned off my UI. There we go. We get it back on. A little bit of wheel bang between the pair of them. Hausman not going to concede all too easily here, as Dylan Warren and gets owner in the pit lane. Shutting the door is Hausman on Sendell, as another fastest lap comes out from Smasher. I do believe we are beginning to see a little bit of lightening up in the track conditions, and possibly getting slightly more dry. I think next time I will see that, if the likes of Dormeyer or Desaluski or even Villacampa, if they set the fastest lap, I'd imagine that it is getting drier. And I wonder if any of these guys are going to try and risk it, stay out on the same set of the intermediate tyres, and then make their one stop only onto the dry tyres, and pretty much get a free pit stop on those behind who have already made their pit stop. But of course, if that comes too late, they will be in range for a puncture. So it is it's like they're dancing on a knife edge if they decide to make that, if they make that call. But doesn't seem like it at this point. The rain, though, it is getting very light here, as we're on lap number 12.
That it is. We are fast approaching the halfway stage in this race. Smasher has done pretty well to extend that gap up front to 1.2 seconds, but Stolek not giving up on that one. The only person Villacampa with this 3-second penalty on him. Someone had trouble. Yes, we've got someone in trouble. It's Floris Vyers. He's just been in the pits for fresh tyres, and he's binned it. Coming through turn 4. Oh dear, the Flying Dutchman is only flying backwards at the moment.
Yeah, that's really going to hurt his race with that spin and all the penalties to his name as well. I don't think he's having a great time in this race. As the top 3 now all decide to pit, make that top 4. Jeffrey Ritchie also comes into the pit lane, and typically the intermediate tyres have about the same life as a set of the mediums. But I'd imagine if everyone is pitting, I would think that we are not going to see dry conditions anytime soon, because we've only got 2 more drivers left out on circuit, Samuel Bean and Pedreño. I think Samuel Bean probably could have pitted because his teammate wasn't in the box, but Pedreño really had no choice, because and of course Stahalek was in the pit lane in the same box as him. So it is unfortunate that that is the case. He's going to have to go one more lap on that set, as Andreas Dormeyer puts in the fastest lap at 38.9. That is quite a bit quicker than I think we've seen in this Grand Prix so far. So yeah, the times are beginning to come down a bit, and it's just looking that little bit lighter in terms of the rain. So hold on, everyone. If you're wanting to see some dry running, well, it could be soon, but even on the off-board shots, it seems like it's heavier than it might be on the onboard. So I'm really confused as to what the conditions are like at this point. But looking back on to the track action, Smasher's got a little bit of traffic in the name of Christian Hausmann. Of course, not pitting yet, being on this set of the intermediate tyres since the very first lap. I think Smasher is going to be in his best interest to clear the Mercedes car as soon as possible. Coming in towards turn number 10 here, you can see he's right up to the rear, pretty much nose to tail, and he's going to peek to the right hand side. Is Hausmann going to give him the room up the inside line? Indeed he does. It seems like Smasher's just got the better grip on the fresher tyres. Hausmann keeping his nose in there. A little bit of a slide from Smasher, but it has worked out for him in the end. He's back up into 5th position. He'll be climbing his way back up the order once everyone else pits as well, and he will be leading this race very soon.
If those that haven't pitted yet are hoping for dry conditions, they're taking a bit of a gamble. It does really look like that rain is almost stopped when they come over the start-finish line, but they don't go very far, and it looks like it's still going. So it's a gamble, and the likes of Samuel Bean, Ruben Pedreño, Tom Martinez, Christian Sendel and Christian Hausmann are still throwing the dice. They are extending those intermediate tyres, and they'll carry on going for a little bit more, but they are going to get very uncomfortable, and CIG Smasher is just proving the worth of those fresh tyres. So we'll see if that pays off. That's another penalty for Mr. Neon. Flores Fires, that's a fresh set of tyres on his car. Of course, sadly he had that spin as on his outlap. So again, that's further proof that the fresh tyres are certainly doing well, as Risky has just come past the aged tyres on Christian Hausmann. So we'll see. I would imagine they're just going to plummet, really. That if they're throwing the dice for drier weather, it's not looking good for them.
Yeah, they do have quite a buffer to the rest of the field. We'll just see the gap between Samuel Bean and Smasher at this point. It's 15 seconds. But if those tyres get punctured, well, he'll be right up to the rear of him in pretty much instantly. So it is a very difficult gamble, and I think, yeah, they're going to back out of that one. At least Samuel Bean is, as Pedreño stays out on circuit. I think Tom Martinez running off to the right-hand side. He'll be coming into the pit lane. What about Sendel? Sendel indeed does box, but Pedreño seems to be the odd one out here. He's the only driver aside from Christian Hausmann, but Hausmann is rapidly falling down the order at this point, and I do believe he's actually stayed out as well. So the only two who have not pitted in this race. Pedreño leads 13 seconds ahead of CRG Smasher. We'll see, I'd imagine, that gap rapidly come down. We're just over the halfway stage of this Grand Prix. The order at the moment is Ruben Pedreño yet to pit, CRG Smasher in second, the net race leader Stahalek about 1.5 seconds adrift from his rival in this race, and Risky following behind in fourth. We've got a battle between that's Hausmann losing positions to Dylan Warren. I think yeah, it's just seemingly typical from Hausmann to be losing these positions at this point. You'd imagine with very worn out tyres, as Antoine Duslis, he's going to slip on by.
Yeah, that is just going to keep playing on and on board with Ruben Pedreño, the current race leader. He's being so ginger, even in normally flat out corners. He's being very careful. Goes obviously very deep into that long right hander, coming into the twisty bits. Another penalty for Neon. He is up to, up to 12 now, as Dormeyer has just made his way past Christian Hausmann. Is Pedreño going to come in this time? Well, he's committed. I'll give him that. He is determined to make this work. It's very hero or zero removers as a Zildrim now gets a penalty. That is how many is he on now? That's his first one. So we're nearly at half the field that have got penalties now. It's rather what I thought would happen.
Yeah, everyone inside the top 7 are completely clean, but outside of that range, only Norbert Jakob, Sendel and Tom Martinez are the only drivers without a penalty. As a newly freshly stopped Samuel Bean, he's come out the pit lane. He's lost a lot of track position in this kerfuffle as he's going up the inside line of Christian Hausmann. He's managed to lose a position to Dylan Warren, I think he might have been, actually no, he was behind Dylan Warren previously, but he's lost the position to Dezeluski and Dormeyer as Dylan Warren gets a 3-second time penalty, so that is another one with a penalty to their name, and I do believe that actually makes up half the field at this point. We were already at half the field now. 11 drivers, if I'm not mistaken, have a penalty. My maths isn't great, and I guess I can't count either, but I digress because Samuel Bean is closing up to the back of Dormeyer at this point, and someone else is also closing, about maybe 1.5-2 seconds a lap. Smashes to Pedreño. I'm just curious as to what the Spaniard's doing.
Well, yeah. You and me both. The rain is still falling, but it is really, really, really light at the sort of tail end of the lap, start of the next one. But it's still falling. It's not going to stop quick enough for Pedreño, shouldn't they? And he's still going on again. Those tyres must be absolutely ruined. He's losing so much. He's going to lose the entirety of a pit stop if he doesn't come in soon.
Yeah, it's just, it doesn't make sense to me at this point. He's got 11 laps left in this Grand Prix. He's just begun lap 17. Smash is about to cross the line. Only 9.5 seconds adrift. We'll keep that bookmarked in our head, and we'll count that next time by, or at least in the third sector. We've got a spinner in sector 3. It's Louis Welch going around. I wonder if he was around him at that point. He might have been near Norbert Jakob, Shizu Neon, or Ulas Azildrim. And speaking of which, I think Neon's actually letting Azildrim back through. So I wonder, oh, I've just seen a little bit of damage there to Neon. I wonder, it might just been the camera angle, but he's running very wide here. So I'm curious as to whether he's got any side pod damage, because he's also losing a lot of time to Ulas Azildrim. As yeah, I don't want to insinuate anything, but smoking gun theory, Neon seemingly slow at this point, and then Louis Welch having a spin. There might have been contact between the pair of them.
Could well be. I can't see any obvious damage. Oh, wow, as Neon's car just did not want to behave itself coming out of turn 5 onto the back straight. So that car is wounded, I'm pretty sure of that. We may well not see it from the camera view, but that car is not behaving itself. But Neon's been having a rough time of it, I think it's fair to say, with a 12-second penalty count on his name at the moment. He's really, really struggling. I wonder whether Pedreño is just trying to not stop. I wonder if he's just as simple as that. He's maybe not interested in thinking about a dry stint, although I am beginning to think there's sun coming out. Because on the onboard of him, I'm seeing that lens flare that tends to come from sunshine. So I'm wondering whether he's just he's thrown the dice, and the soft. If we are going to see sun, either going to come out too late. Either way, he's still pressing on. 7.6 seconds now. Although he's several corners away from the start finish line. So what was it last time? 9.5. So he won't hold the lead at that pace difference. But there's another pit stop to do. May yet prove to be the heroic strategy. He's throwing the dice, and now he's committed to it.
Yeah, I think there's no backing out now. Wouldn't make any sense at this point, but just looking at his tires, they're almost slick at this point. Pretty much losing all tread. 17 laps in this Grand Prix. I'd imagine he's not far off of a puncture, and is just about spitting it down with rain, and we are seeing slight peaks of sunshine, at least on the lens of the camera. But he's losing so much more time in comparison to that. I just don't see it being feasible and being, let's say, working strategy for Pedreño. So he could be losing out on the lead here. But if he doesn't get a puncture and we do see a dry stint, he might not be winning this race, but he could still certainly be in a strong position, because there is gaps between the top drivers of about 1.5 pretty much consistently, I'd say, aside from Ghetto being 2.7s back from Risky. So this might not be the worst call for Pedreño in the world unless he gets a puncture, and I think it's all or nothing for him. He either wants all the points that he can get, which he wasn't getting many in the first place, or he'll DNF straight up, or he'll finish right down at the back of the order, whereabouts Villa Camper is, whose tyres are also not looking to be in the best conditions. But beginning lap number 19, the gap between the leaders is 5 seconds now, just about to peak underneath that for the first time. Smasher just going to keep his head level and cool. 6 laps on those tyres. They've got plenty of tread, plenty of grip left in them to go to the very end. I think he'll be very happy with how his race has gone so far.
He'd have every reason to be happy about it, as Zildjim's just gone past Houseman, who was throwing the dice but bailed on that particular strategy, I think. Let me just double check his tyre count. Oh no, sorry, Houseman is also throwing the dice, but it's going horribly wrong for him. Now all the way down in 13th position, having an argument with Neon for that spot. I think the Red Bull, even in its wounded state, will probably fly past. Well, actually, as I say, that Neon flew off the road. That car just does not want to turn, even though the rain has pretty much stopped. It is still falling enough for slicks to be impossible. Oh, as the Red Bull nudges into the back of the Mercedes. There goes Neon, gets past Christian Houseman, of course, with all those penalties on the board for Neon. That's going to be a fairly moot point. Just 3 seconds now separates Pedreño and CRG Smasher for the lead of the race, with another 8 laps to do. And he's still sticking to it. He's not going to come in. Is he just going to try and come in for slicks too early and just see what happens? That's the only thing he's going to be able to do, because I would imagine that those tyres just won't hold.
Yeah,
Houseman spun.
Oh dear, I wonder if that could be a puncture for him. I think it might be front right puncture, it seems. The tyre is certainly shaking there. He's coming to the pit lane, and surely we've got to watch Pedreño here. And I think he might also have a puncture. Pedreño does indeed have a puncture. Lap 20, there goes Smasher sneaking up the inside line. Pedreño just struggling to even keep their car in a straight line. There goes Sahalek flying by. The gamble has not worked out, and the tyre's now blipping in and out of existence here as the tyre wear's gotten that bad. Pedreño's race completely over here. I think any chance of points completely shot at this point.
He's going to have to go on to dries now. So what does Houseman do? Houseman goes on to inters. If Pedreño is going to follow this strategy through, obviously these guys would never in real life actually drive that quick with a dead tyre, which has just shredded itself. Oh, brilliant drifting going on from Pedreño, keeping that car going at that pace with only 3 properly working wheels. That's a great effort there. He's turning left into a right-hander, getting that slide to work really, really well. In fairness, he's not just done the easy thing and just jumped over the stripes. He's actually doing it properly. I'll give him that. It's going to be curious to see what he goes on to. Christian Houseman has pitted and gone on to another set of inters, but he's done that way, 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 way too late.
Oh, he's gone.
And there goes Pedreño.
Oh, his tyres are gone.
Oh, and he's gone backwards into the wall. And yeah, on my screen, the tyre's gone as well. Oh, there we go. He's back again. So the ghost of Jeffrey Ritchie has come in as well, and speeding in the pit lane as well, just to make Pedreño's day even worse. Is he going to park it? I'm going to stay with him. Well, that's a ghosted car, so if that is, well, unless we've been conned all this time, but I think that's a ghosted car. It's softs for Pedreño. He's gone on to softs, so he's following this one through, and Villacampa has come in. Are we going to see 8 laps of absolute godlike performance from Pedreño? He could have done with that puncture either half a lap earlier or half a lap later. It happened at the worst possible time. that AlphaTauri is dancing around everywhere. It's too early, realistically, but it does look like the rain has actually stopped. So you never know. And Villacampa has indeed gone onto the soft tyres as well. So I guess at this point, they're so far down the field, it's just a case of may as well.
Yeah, they've got nothing to lose at this point, so why not go onto a dry compound of tyres? And you can see the rain has completely stopped now. Sunlight is beginning to peek through the clouds. You can see the glare on Sahalek's car we've just seen. I wonder if these drivers will try and stick it on the set of the intermediates to the end, or will we see dry running, the top 2 both deciding to stay out? I wouldn't be surprised if the likes of Neon, Louis Welch, they go onto a set of the softs and risk it. really, because they're not in the points. They're outside the top 10, so they're not losing anything. But it is a big risk, big reward kind of thing. And I don't think it is early, and I don't think it's time for the intermediate tyres. Sorry, for the slick tyres, but the time is coming. The dry line is forming, and it is just a matter of time as to when these drivers want to pit, or even if they do want to pit, because with only 6 laps, 5.5 laps to go in this race, is it even worth it to box for a set of the soft compound of tyres? We don't know. As Neon, I think Neon's gone. He's going over the blue stripes.
Yeah.
I think he's had a spin there.
And Pedroño has just been overtaken by Houseman, so those soft tyres are giving him absolutely nothing. And Pedroño's come back in the pit. I reckon he's going to call it a day. Is Villacampa going to do the same, I wonder? And there we go. Pedroño has indeed opted to leave the race. He had no choice. He had to throw the dice. Villacampa has done exactly the same thing. Just come in and decided enough's enough. So, yeah, the rain needed to have stopped about 5 laps ago for that to work properly. So we do, however, have a forming battle for the lead, because Starlek is now right with Smasher. That gap has been steady at 1.5 seconds for a while. Now Pietra Starlek is like, right, come on then. If you want this win, you're going to have to work for it, Sunshine. They've left Risky quite some way down the road, and now it's a straight fight between the McLaren and the AlphaTauri.
Yeah, there is one glaring difference between the pair of them, as Dylan Warren has had a spin further in the back. There might have been some contact with Desaluski, because he's also off the circuit, so it's all kicking off further back down the order. Samuel Bean trying to go into the back of Andreas Dormeyer in towards turn number 1. He can't find a gap, he can't find an avenue through turn number 1, but he was certainly looking on the back of the Red Bull car. As if they're done, I was going to say the difference between Stahalek and Smasher is the ERS, the battery usage that they've got. Smasher's almost at 100%, as well, Stahalek's using it pretty much all to catch up, as he's done a very good job of it, to be fair to him. But he's only got 25% left in that battery. So it'll be very touch and go as to whether he actually makes the move stick, because Smasher's got so much in reserve. He can just blitz it whenever he feels like it to defend from Starlek. But coming towards the end of lap 23, the order at the moment, if you're just joining us, 400 live viewers in the chat at the moment, as Starlek's got a penalty!
Oh.
Penalty for Starlek! And heartbreak.
A shame. He was millimetres too wide coming through that fast right-hander, trying to chase off after Smasher. Yeah, like you say, that Starlek's battery is pretty mullered at this point. It's because Smasher hasn't had to defend against anyone for so long. He's just maintained that gap exactly where he needs to be, as Sundell gets his name on the penalty board as well. So what's that for him? That's his first penalty of the day. So only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars, well, ignoring Richie, 5 cars are without penalty, of which Smasher is one of them. So that's been an absolutely flawless performance from CRG Smasher. Really, Starlek's only hope is that Smasher adds his name to the penalty board in the dying moments, as Louis Welch has come in. He's going to throw the gamble. There's no point. You'll never make the time back, as several people are getting penalties now, as French has got one as well. I saw a 10-second one briefly. Yeah, Louis Walsh has gone on to softs. That is pointless. He's probably going to go for fastest lap at most. That's all he's going to gain. You'll never make back that time with 4 laps to go.
Well, I guess there was no real reason for him. He wasn't gaining anything. He's not lost anything aside from track position. And it's unlikely we'll see a safety car that will actually benefit anyone this late in the Grand Prix. So maybe just try out the slick tyres, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So Louis Welch just going for the gamble. I've just noticed in the live chat, $2.79 Canadian dollars, that is, coming out from Cartalundi. Very thankful for that donation. That brings us up another donation. So really big thanks for you there. But lap 24 coming to a close. Stahalek with the time penalty. That might actually ignite a flame, possibly in his belly to go for an overtake. Someone else making an overtake is seemingly Antoine Desaluski, looking onto the back of Dylan Warren for some minor positions in the points. Both these guys having issues early on as well, of course, with their spins pretty much in tandem with each other, at least running off the circuit. They had their issues, so possible contact between the pair of them, not too sure, but we'll have to see how that plays out in the dying laps of the race. Lap 25 has just begun, only 3 laps remaining here.
18 seconds penalty for Neon now, so he's going to be racing next week, still on this circuit, when we head off to the next one. Yes, Smasher is really feeling as Houseman also gets his name on the penalty board now. So yeah, Smasher's really feeling the need to use up some energy. Remember, they still don't have DRS. That has not been activated. That's not, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been activated. It does look like the rain has stopped pretty much everywhere, but it's done it too late. These inters, even Warren, will get them to the end of the race with so few laps to go. Tom Martinez is getting close to the back of Sendell, but not close enough to make a move at the moment. But if Smasher is forced into a mistake from Stowlek, in that dreaded 3-second penalty pops up, they could reignite the battle for the lead completely. They are clear of Risky by enough that 3-second penalty won't adjust the podium 3 yet. But anything can still happen in these final 2 laps.
Absolutely, they're coming through the final sector now. Stahalek cannot afford to lift the pressure on Smasher. He's got to apply it probably even more tenfold at this point just for having a sniff at glory in this race. And actually, Risky is closing up to the back of him as well, so I wonder if he'll lose out on second position. 9 tenths is the gap between 3.9 tenths is what am I saying here, 3 seconds and 9 tenths between Risky and Stahalek. I got it right eventually, but 9 tenths is all Risky needs to take second position, is what I tried to get out there, as it is doable. But knowing the pace of Stahalek, he might be on for his second place in a row this season at round number 2. It's a lot of 2s for Piotr Stahalek, but hopefully he will see a chance at glory at some point in the season. Possibly not today, as Neon has had a spin. It's really just not gone his way today.
Everything that could have gone wrong for that Red Bull has done. It's all undoing itself very nicely. And Louis Welch is still having an argument with Christian Houseman. I think, Welch has come in. Is he going to go back under Winters, or is he going to park it? Surely in that position he's just going to park the car. He hasn't done. Yeah, back into Winters. He's had enough of dancing around. No, he's still going. Fair play. He's going to see the race out. But yeah, only 7 tenths between Risky and the next step on the podium. Then it's doable. Like you say, it is absolutely doable. The tyre life is exactly the same. Oh, it's going to be close, I think. At this pace, Risky won't quite do it. But if Stowlek flies off the road somewhere, then it is all bets are off.
He can't afford to give up Risky. It's one of the number 1 rules of racing. You've got to fight until the very end of the race, and that is what a lot of these drivers have done, even with their struggles today, like Neon, Veers, Houseman and Louis Welch. They've all soldiered on, and I have the utmost admiration for them, as Antoine Desaluski loses out to Ulas Zildjian, and I think Norbert Jakob might try and slip through on the Mercedes car. He pulls off to the left-hand side, letting him through. I think he might have a bit of wing damage, or maybe some side pod or rear wing. I'm not too sure with all the damage model that we've got on this new game. But through the final lap we come. Stahalek has done all he can. Really, he's put the pressure on when the time was right, and he pushed till the very end, but he got the unfortunate 3-second time penalty, which might have dampened his spirits in the wet French Grand Prix. But Smasher has been a cut above the rest today, almost flawlessly executed, and he's still pretty consistent with his lap times, even when he's on 14-lap-old intermediate tyres. Through the final sector he comes at this point. He's crawling through here. He doesn't want to run wide. He doesn't want to make a mistake and get a penalty. Not that it's going to affect him in the death of it all, but through now, turn number 14, sliding through as he does very nicely indeed. Smasher's got one more braking zone, one more corner to do it before he is a race winner on debut in F2. He wasn't here last week, but he's taken like a fish to water, and he's going to cross the line. Smasher's going to win in France.
What a performance from CRG Smasher. Absolutely nailed it. I'm not saying the obvious part. I'm not going there. But that was brilliant stuff. Well played. Still penalties being clocked up on the board. So your winner here at Paul Ricard is CRG Smasher. Starlex second again. Great performance. Nice consistency. Just couldn't quite overcome the incredible pace of the McLaren. Risky 3. Get owned 4. Samuel Bean in 5th, Dylan Warren and Signalberto in 7th. Still positions being swapped around due to the penalties. Andreas Dormeyer in 8th. Tom Martinez elevated to the points due to him not getting a penalty. That's 9th position. Oles Ozildrim pulling off some great moves towards the end of the race to try and elevate his position. He claims the last point. Sendel 11, French 12, Vyers with his massive penalty count in 13th position. Neon with the best penalty count of the night on 18. He's just crossed the line. Houseman is elevated up into 14th as a result. And Louis Welch, fair play for seeing the race out. Fair play for giving the softs a try, but it was just never going to work with that much water still out there. In the Alpine, coming through the final turn, and that rounds out a fascinating French Grand Prix.
Yeah, it might not have been the most exciting race in the world with all overtakes and such, but certainly I think the wet weather did add a little bit more of a perseverance strategy to this race, and I think Smasher has, you know what, you didn't make the joke, I will. He smashed it today, and I think CRG are going to go home laughing. It's a 1-2 for CRG in this race, and they celebrate atop the podium. It is English, Polish and British on the podium today. It's Risky. He does get an honourable mention in 3rd as well, because he did put in a pretty strong performance, kept his nose clean, kept on the track, and he didn't get a penalty. He'll celebrate a 3rd position, 10 points going back for the Alfa Romeo team, and he finally gets on the score sheet. But here is your comprehensive list of all the drivers, the classification of this race. Smasher wins it, Stahalek in 2nd, 3rd for Risky, and Getone had a quiet race. He finished in 4th. Samuel Bean in 5th, and then Dylan Warren, despite all of the spins, he manages to finish in 6th place. And Norbert Jakob, keeping it clean without any penalties to his name, he manages to jump up into 7th position ahead of Andreas Dormeyer in 8th. 9th for Tom Martinez, and then Ulas Ildrim, he also manages to pick up his first point of the season in 10th. 11th for Christian Sendel. He can't quite recreate his Bahrain performance, and he'll unfortunately finish in 11th. Same for Antoine Desaluski, just about missing out with the damage towards the end of the Grand Prix in 12th. 13th for Floris Viers, 14th for Christian Hausmann. Then Shazoo Neon takes up 15th, and Louis Welch, the last of the finishers. I really do applaud him actually for sticking it out and not retiring. I think a little bit of consolation for him is that he managed to pick up the fastest lap. Then your 3 retirements from this race: Jeffrey Ritchie, TF10 Villacampa and Ruben Pedreño. But that brings us to an end of what was, I'd say, a certainly very interesting French Grand Prix, as I've pulled us on to the wrong screen. There we go. Hopefully we can get a couple of these guys in for an interview, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that race and who you'd possibly award your Driver of the Day award to.
Wow, I mean, it's difficult to ignore a performance like that from Smasher. Like you said, we didn't see him last time out, and he absolutely nailed it. He got the pole, and in very tricky conditions and under a fair amount of pressure early on, he just did exactly what he needed to do and kept it good and clean. One of the few drivers without a penalty. I'm going to go CRG Smasher.
That's fair enough. Winning in pretty convincing style. I'm trying to think who I can give my Driver of the Day award to. I guess Smasher does spring to mind, but I guess I've got to I've got to digress from you there. I've got to pick someone else. So you know what? I'll pick Risky, because coming into this race, I'd imagine the mental probably wasn't too strong with him losing out last week with connection issues kind of out of his hands. I think coming into this race, he wouldn't have been too confident, but he managed to drive nice and consistently and take 3rd position in the end. So really well done from him today. I'm going to check the Discord, see if anyone wants an interview, but I'm not too sure. We didn't get anyone last week, as Risky asked actually for an interview. So hopefully if they are hearing this, they can join the waiting room and then we can bring them in. And I think we've got the first. We'll move CRG Smasher into our box today. Smasher, can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hello, you're a little bit quiet. I'm just going to turn you up a little bit here, but let's start the interview off first and foremost with how are you feeling after that win today?
Yep, well, it's a big surprise to be honest. Came into the race with, well, not turning up last week and on the verge of not racing this season, so to rock up to my first race and yeah, to whip out a lap that was nearly 2 times quicker than I had done today with my minimal practice today. It's quite a surprise, and then I knew wet race, I knew if it didn't turn dry or anything, it was, and I didn't make any mistakes, it was pretty much a done deal, so it was all just about making sure the tyre wear were really good to be honest, but yeah, good fun. I could see how frustrating it was for zones behind you, just can't overtake in the wet, but yeah, happy to take my win.
Yeah, really well done. I'd like to go back to the comment about the conditions there. We saw it stopped raining maybe 10 laps, maybe a little bit less than that, about 7 laps from the end of the race. It completely stopped raining. So I just want to know how you kind of cope with that, and were you thinking possibly about coming in for the dry set?
Yeah, it was hard to judge really, because obviously with the rain stopping, you know, over to fully push and burn out all the intermediates, but then if it stays wet, well, you can't pit for dries, you might get a puncture at the end. So one point I was worried about Ruben, who tried staying out until the dries. I was worried about him at one point, but then once I saw it was not going dry anytime soon, that calmed down, and then yeah, it was just about not making any silly mistakes, and I knew with about 5 laps left, just cruise home, don't get a puncture, and yeah. So it was more annoying than it should have been, but yeah, nice to get the win.
Yeah, well, all's fair. You know, you did really well today. That's all from me, though. If Kodiak has any questions, then fire away.
Well, no, you asked what I was going to. So, yeah, fair play, Smasher. Well done for rocking up, and especially minimal practice in the wet. That's absolutely outstanding. You got my driver of the day vote. You were absolutely flawless. Well done, sir.
Thank you.
So I think we'll move on to the third place finisher here. We've got Risky coming into the comms box. Risky, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right, awesome. So first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your podium today, and it couldn't have been easy in the wet conditions. But also, I'd like to know about coming into this race. Of course, your Bahrain result did not go as planned. You unfortunately disconnected at multiple occasions. So coming into this race, how was sort of the psychological, the mental side of things, and were you really expecting a podium?
Well, I'm using data right now. I got my phone plugged into my computer via a USB cable because I do not trust Sky Wi-Fi. ET next Thursday. Thank you very much, Dad, for getting that sorted. But to be fair, I mean, qualifying didn't go as well as I hoped. That was a 0.9, and my PB is quite a bit quicker than that. But at the end of the day, like P3, that's always a nice position to start in. And then I did a bit of wet practice, but not a lot. So when I saw it was wet, I was like, okay, let's just keep this going. And then I got 2 warnings within like 8 laps. So I was like, for the rest of the race, I couldn't really push as hard. But yeah, I mean, it was just all about confidence. Like I started slow, and then I went quicker and quicker, and I think I got fastest lap as well. Which is an extra point, which is obviously really nice. But yeah, hopefully I think almost certainly that will get bumped up to P2, because Stacker let cross pit lane, exit, and entry. I think he definitely crossed pit lane, exit, so that should be P2 for me, which I'm obviously delighted about. But yeah, I mean, on a grid of this quality, you never know what's going to happen, especially in the wet. And I started slow. I made sure I didn't make any mistakes, and then I gradually built into it. Kept on putting the diff back, because the brake bias back, because I was so scared I was going to lock up and spin the rears. But no, I mean, I'm really happy with P3 on a grid of this quality, and I don't think I made too many mistakes as well. So yeah, I'm really, really happy. And yeah, P3 is definitely something I'd be happy with every single race. So yeah, very pleased.
Yeah, well, really well done. We'll keep everyone updated on that Stahalek incident and whether that gets reported in the end. But from me, that's a really well done. I don't have any more questions for you. So, Kodiak, if you have anything to say to our podium sitter, Risky, then fire away.
Well, just a congratulations, because that race was hard work for everybody. No further questions from me. Just well done. Good to see you on the podium, and many more to come.
Thank you very much for commentating. You guys did a great job, as always. So thank you very much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you kindly, sir.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you.
So with that, I don't think we're going to be getting a comment from Stahalek in the end there, but I'd like to draw our attention to the calendar, which you can see on your screen at the moment. Next week we head to the longest circuit on the calendar, the Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps. About 7 kilometers long is that track, and also very difficult on this new game. So we will hopefully have a brilliant race there. I remember actually commentating the social race there. I think about 9 drivers finished maybe, so it is certainly going to put them all to the test. But I think that is all from us today. As Kodiak, if you'd like to say anything, then now's your chance.
Spa is one of those tracks that everybody knows. Every racing fan has it in their DNA, no matter what you're into, whether it's F1, GT, lawnmowers, go-karts, doesn't matter. You know what Spa is. It is one of my favourite circuits, and I very much look forward to shouting about the beautiful Ardennes Forest in F1 2021 next week for F2 at 8 p.m. Please do join us. We very much look forward to having your company with us.
Absolutely, I second that wholly. But if you haven't had enough PSGL action, then you can first of all check our socials in the description. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at PremierSimGL, and then the Discord link should also be in the description. But if your thirst is not quenched, and if you're still hungry for more, then do not fear, because tomorrow we head back to the Lake Castellet for the PC F1 grid, which boasts the likes of Frederick Rasmussen, Jarno Opmis, who I see all the time getting some love in the live chat, and Danny Moreno as well. So a fantastic grid, commentated by 2 fantastic commentators of George Morgan and Jack Canan. But from us, it is goodbye. Thank you very much for joining us on this Wednesday evening. We will see you next week at 8 p.m. But from us, it is thank you and goodbye.